I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. All right, man. Let's tell everybody who you are.
My name is Bill Groves. I was in 2004. I was a Lance Corporal, and I was with MAP 2 for 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines in Weapons Company, obviously.
There you go.
And you were with my platoon. You came to us in the middle of Okinawa, is that right?
Yeah, right near the tail end of it, because you guys got extended there. You were there for like 11 months, and I definitely didn't do 11 months the first time around. So I forget how long I was there for, but it was a good time.
Did you come, were you a part of the group that came while we were underway and on ship, or did you come after the second time that we had been on ship?
I don't think you guys were underway when I got there, because when I got there, I think everybody was in Hanson, and then shortly after I got there, I think we went on, did the Oki 500 once, I think, because I think we went to Sasebo.
Okay.
When I was there the first time, but I could be misremembering it. I think it was just like the last 6 weeks of your guys' deployment. I was there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a first boot drop that was like Harris, Jax, Johnson, like a couple of people, and then like you came and Monroe, and I can't remember who else was with you. Who else came with you?
No, Monroe was the second time around.
Okay.
Monroe came right before we went to. I think he got there right before we went to Ramadi. I don't think he was there for Oki the first time.
Oh, okay.
I think I came with Jackson and Johnson and those guys.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice. All right. Well, let's start there. What do you remember from after we got back from Okinawa and kind of the buildup going to Ramadi? Any of the training or anything that you did?
I remember that it was kind of fast paced. I knew that they'd kind of told us it was going to be a quick turnaround. I think it was only like we got back from Oki, and I think it was like 5 or 6 months or something like that we turned around and then redeployed. I remember
it was over the summer that we got told that we were on the fast track to go back out, but we weren't told where until much later.
Yeah, I didn't know where we were going, but I heard it was going to be a quick turnaround. I remember him telling us that. I remember the training was. It seemed like the training calendar was pretty intense. There was always a lot of stuff going on. There wasn't a lot of like sit around and bullshit time, but I remember thinking when I got there that I definitely didn't feel prepared to be where I was at. So it definitely could have been a little bit more training. But
and did you end up going to any division schools or anything like that? Did you go to machine gunner course or anything?
After Ramadi, I ended up teaching at division schools at the end of my enlistment, but no, I didn't go to the division schools before.
Nice. Cool, man. So what do you remember from the spin up?
Honestly, I remember, was Bridgeport after? No, Bridgeport was after Ramadi, right?
No, we went before.
Okay. Yeah. I remember Bridgeport. That was a fucking shit show.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I remember if it was I forget who it was, but they told us only to bring the green sleeping bag and the bivy cover. And so nobody had enough sleeping bags. Everybody was freezing. The zippers were like froze shut in the morning.
Yes.
I remember Bridgeport being miserable.
Yeah, Bridgeport was awful.
I remember Silton dying twice.
Yes.
Yeah. On that, it was like 95, 94 or 94, 95, that the hike they call it.
Yeah.
I remember that being rough. And then I remember about Bridgeport, I remember the guy, the instructor killing the rabbit and pulling his like lungs out and guys passing the lungs around and blowing them up like a balloon.
Yeah. And who was it? It was Rapazzo, and was it you, Blake, that ate the eyeballs?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Gross, dude.
Yeah.
My favorite part about that one was that there was those Air Force guys that were doing it too. And they were absolutely horrified by our response to them killing the rabbit. and gutting it and stuff like that because we were all cheering and they had like this horrified look on their face.
Yeah.
It was very it's what gets me through the night sometimes.
Yep. Yep. It's a whole different mindset, I'm sure.
My second memory of that was when like I think at least 3 or 4 people fell down the side of the mountain on that last night movement. And like people were going ass over teacup, like down that mountain. And it was one of the most demoralizing movements I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah. I remember one of the last movements, they were like, hey, it's like a 5-mile hike or something like that. But it's like 5 miles as the crow flies. And then once you get all the up and downs, it turned into like felt like 15 miles. It was brutal. But
yep. I fell down the mountain, and then I remember everybody stopped and paused because Gwizdak fell down the mountain and got knocked out. And everybody was like, if Gwizdak is knocked out, like, we need to stop for a minute.
Yeah, we just catch our breath for a second.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as like any other spin ups, like, did we do 29 palms? Was that right before too, or was that later on?
No, that was later. We did no range 400, no 29 palms. The only other big training evolution was 2-part. We did one at MOUT Town, and we did one at the little mini MOUT Town that Gunny Merarkey kind of set up in the backyard, which I don't know if you count that.
We did sims there.
Yeah, with the sim rounds.
Is that the one where we didn't want to wait for the truck, so we hiked back to Mateo?
That was at the actual MOUT Town. Yes. And then we hiked all the way back. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Because the 7 tons were going to be 8 hours or some ridiculous number.
Yeah. And they were like, hey, we're just going to walk it. I remember thinking, fuck. Because they had, they had T-rats and they were serving succotash, like corn and lima beans.
Yeah.
And I hate lima beans. And I'm like, I'm not eating shit. And so we did like 20 or 21 mile hike with no food. I was dying.
Yeah. Full gear, no food. Most everybody had been dipping all day. And so just completely dehydrated. Yeah. And then the last training evolution we did right before we caught the birds in February was March Air Force Base. That was the training with the Brits.
Oh, yeah. March. That's right. I was thinking we did that high altitude shoot in Fallon, Nevada, but I think that was later.
I don't know. Actually, I think you guys went and did that. So I didn't go to that. That was
you didn't go to Fallon?
That was just the machine gunners that went to go do that. So you guys took off and took some trucks and went over to Fallon, Nevada and did that. But I don't know. You, Fuentes, Harden, Jax, all you machine gunner guys did, but I stayed back because, tow gunner and all that.
Yeah, tow gunner. So you were smarter than the rest of us.
Was that just a range that you guys did? Well, I don't know this. I don't know that evolution.
Yeah, it was just a high elevation machine gun range. So it was I think it was more to like prepare for like an Afghanistan deployment.
Okay.
But it was basically to show you that when you're shooting from an elevated position, shooting down, that you don't got to aim as far because kind of gravity kind of takes it. So if it's 800 yards, you could probably set your sight at 700 yards and still hit the target.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember you guys coming back and using big words like enfilade fire and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, you guys learned some shit. That's awesome. Yeah, and like Harden was like explaining it to me and drawing all these pictures on paper. He looked like a crazy person. But it was it sounded good.
Yeah, well, I remember being up there and because you're shooting at a pretty steep angle. And I mean, we range find it and it was like 800 yards. And so they let you set your sights at 800 and you fire a burst off and you see how far you overshot it. And you're like, oh shit. So then you end up cranking it down like 500 and it's okay. But
that's good. I'm glad they didn't end up being useful in Ramadi, but, but that's, I'm glad you guys learned that shit. Cool, man. Do you remember anything from March Air Force Base at all?
No, not really. I mean, no. I remember going there and I remember coming home, but I don't remember much of the training there.
Yeah. Well, let's go with stuff that you do remember. It was February-ish. I got the word February 13th that we were going to be leaving on the 16th. And so it was February 16th when we flew out. And anything strike you when we finally started packing gear and leaving?
Yeah. So I I remember it was right around February 13th. Yeah, because that checks out because the movie 51st Dates just got released, and we had planned on going and seeing that in theaters. And we got recalled early. I think they called us back from the weekend. They called us in early so we could pack our shit and get ready to go. So I never ended up seeing that in theaters, which that's okay. I've seen it 100 times since, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, I remember coming back, packing up, and we got on, we flew out of March Air Force Base, and then we had airplane trouble. We landed in Maine, and apparently they couldn't Amazon the airplane equipment, so then they flew us to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And we stayed at the nicest Air Force barracks, or at least the nicest barracks I've ever seen. They were condemned by the Air Force, I heard.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that was, but and I don't know if they just
story checks out though.
no, this is just from what I remember. They said you guys can stay in here. It's condemned, so nobody's in here, and that's why they let us stay in there. At least that's the story we were told. How true that is, I don't know. But I remember some guys had a mini bar in their fridge because that was one thing they said is don't touch the mini bar. And at 7:30 in the morning, somebody knocked on my door, and it was a maid to come and empty my trash and make my bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, Air Force has got it fucking made. And I remember we were there for it was like 7 or 10 days.
Yeah.
We were there for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember it snowed while we were there, and that was like my first real time playing in the snow. So it's pretty stoked. That's where the Bridgeport training came in, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it was, I remember we went to the gym there, and it was like the biggest human being I'd ever seen, just the most muscular dude. And he was working at the gym. And I remember asking him, like, hey, are you in the military? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm a recreational specialist in the Air Force. And I knew right then that I fucked up. I knew my recruiter was full of shit, that there were better jobs. Because that dude just worked at a gym he passed out towels and got swole, and I could have been doing that. But,
you got better stories now, though.
Yeah, way better stories. That guy's got shit on me now. But
yeah, I remember the chow hall. And I remember the maids, both. I remember you guys being just over the fucking moon about the maids. You're like, a maid came in and cleaned. They made my rack perfectly. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I don't think I let them make my rack. I think I still made my own bed, but I let them take the trash out. That was fine. But I was still just when they knocked on the door, and I was like, wait, you guys got maids? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate the note that I had forgotten that's why we went up to that base, is that the one that we went to wasn't going to be able to get us the parts. And so we went up to the other one for the repair.
Yeah. I mean, that was an actual Air Force base. That was not Nellis. What was the name of that Air Force base? Anyway, doesn't matter. The New Jersey Air Force Base.
Yeah.
I forget.
And then, the other thing, when we landed in Maine, that was the coldest I'd ever been in my entire life.
Oh, for sure.
There. Yeah. There was like 6-foot snow drifts, and the wind was blowing like 40 miles an hour. And we got off the plane and we had to walk into the airport or into the terminal or whatever. And I remember guys just had like icicles coming out of their nose. Like that was the coldest I'd ever been in my whole life. That was miserable.
Yep.
But
yeah. And then we finally took off and got out over the Pacific. You remember flying over?
Yeah, I remember flying over. I don't remember much about the flight. I probably slept most of the way. And then I think we landed in Germany for a little bit. And I want to say we watched Super Troopers while we were there. Like I remember watching a movie with everybody, and I thought it was Super Troopers.
You might have. So we broke down again. And engines broke. We were losing oil or fuel or both. And when we landed in Germany, like there was liquid coming out of the plane all over the tarmac, and we got stuck in Germany for a couple of days while they had to find another engine. Mm-hmm. I think they found us a whole nother plane. I don't know that. I don't remember for sure, but either way, that was, we were there for a couple of days, and then we finally bounced over to Kuwait.
Yeah. We were at Camp Liberty in Kuwait. Is that what it's called?
Victory, I think.
Victory,
Liberty. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Camp Victory. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember being there, and I think that was the first time I met Quist was there.
Oh, okay.
We were we were getting ready to stage out, and like obviously we didn't have our trucks. We were all like lined up, like walking, like we were the convoy, like prepping for the convoy.
Yeah.
and I was wearing my big aviator glasses, and Quist walked up and he's like, "Oh, nice glasses," and I was like, "Oh, these are my I don't want to be here glasses." And he still remembered that years later when he ended up taking over the platoon. But
That's too funny.
That's funny. That's great. And then I know you drove up because you were in my convoy when we crossed the LOD. And then what do you remember of the drive up? Who were you with anyway on the drive up? Because we're all piled in.
No, our truck just had 3 people. It was me, Monroe, Geezer, and Swede. It was just the 3 of us, I think.
Okay.
At least whenever I asked for one of those Durkadoos, it was just Swede or Geezer passing them to me. But I remember it was a 3-day trip, and we drove like 12 hours one day, 14 hours the next, and then like a 6 or 8 hour drive or something like that. And for those that don't know, if you've never driven a Humvee, that lull, like that, just that hum, bro, it's a good thing they had the rumble strips on the side of the highway there too, because I was all over the road. Swede was waking me up like every 10 minutes. He's like, "Hey, wake the fuck up." And I'm just like, "I'm trying, man." The max speed of 54 miles an hour. I think it lulled you to sleep.
It is a rough one. Driving back from some training evolution was the first time I OD'd on caffeine because I was trying to stay awake and I just kept pounding like caffeine jolts. Yeah, that sucked.
I remember like we stopped at like a couple bases along the way, or like little outposts or whatever, and kind of resupplied, and everybody just kind of stole shit along the way. I mean, we stole whatever we thought we could use, and we didn't even know what we needed, but we stole it anyway. Fucking food, sodas, whatever that wasn't bolted down, we took with us.
Yeah.
100%.
At one point in the convoy, I remember they called that they had taken contact, and like we didn't even stop. I don't remember stopping. We just kept going. I was like, all right, whatever. That's just the way it is now, I guess. And I don't even know how close it was. It could have been 100 trucks in front of me for all I know. But I remember they called it out on the radio. And then we finally rolled into Ramadi, and I think like day one, if I'm remembering it right, like day one of the Army Humvees, like a taxi cab, rolled up and threw a satchel of C4 on it and detonated it.
Yep.
And it was just, I mean, they were cleaning those dudes up with sponges, basically.
So that specifically, that was our first mission without our left seat, right seat. So me, myself, Staff Sergeant Coleman, the lieutenant, Randall, a couple other people, I think Jordan and Swede all did left seat, right seats with our limited Army partnership. And all they did was just drive us up and down, basically Michigan, point out a couple of things. We came back. And then we went to the palace and did like a big map recon and tried to figure out the names of things. They handed us these terrible maps that were very zoomed out, like little tiny 1 in 100,000 scale maps.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. The very first mission, day one, we went out of our AO. We weren't even in Ramadi. We were north of the river and went to that. You're right. We went to that Army Humvee that was destroyed. And those guys were, yeah, that's a good way to put it. They were picking them up with a shovel.
Yeah. And I remember like right then, like we got there, and I think that's when everybody's like, oh shit, that's when everybody's like, okay, we're done fucking around now.
Yeah.
Was that right there?
Yeah. I had forgot about that mission. That was fucking terrible. That was an Army, I think if I remember correctly, that was either engineers or like military police or something. They weren't even an infantry unit, whatever they were.
No. Yeah, military police sounds right, but it's been so long now, I don't.
Yeah. Anything else strike you from those early missions?
Not really from the drive up. I mean, I remember we had like a little boombox in the car, and everybody's always arguing about what songs to put on. And I felt like we were listening to the same shit over and over again because we probably ran out of the song on the iPods because they didn't have. I don't think we had a CD player. I think we had an iPod or something.
Did you? Yeah, I was gonna say because we had a CD player. We just played CDs.
Oh, maybe it was a CD player then. Maybe that's what we had too.
Yeah. Do you remember what you were listening to?
So I remember Garth Brooks being stuck in my head the entire drive up there, and it was this the song "That Summer" by Garth Brooks.
Oh God!
And I mean, which is a good song. Don't get me wrong, but when it's on repeat for 14 fucking hours, I can't even listen to Garth Brooks anymore. So
That's hilarious.
But,
And then, so your truck you ended up being the driver of the highback originally. So it was you, Swede was your vehicle commander, Jim Harden, and Jared Monroe was your gunner. And then I don't remember who was originally in the back of the highback when we first started going out.
So when we first went out, we didn't have a highback initially. We had a regular Humvee, and I think one of the 81s Humvees broke down, and so we gave them ours, and we took a highback.
Okay.
Or something like that. One of the other, maybe it was map 3 or something. They needed another truck, so we gave them ours, and we took a highback. Initially, it was Sergeant Neil, fucking Knife was with us. That's who the other guy was.
Okay.
So it was me, Swede, Neil, and Geezer. And then once we had the highback, I think we picked up maybe Matroka and Miranda.
Yeah,
when they were dismounts.
Right. That sounds right.
And then when we got the combat replacements, we picked up Rabbit and the two brothers.
Yeah, Hampton, Lopez, and Gonzalez. But you had Cohen as well, right?
No,
Cohen.
No.
Cohen stayed in the lieutenant's vehicle.
Yeah, he was in LTs, I think.
Okay, I know he was a dismount part of the time. I just didn't remember when.
Yeah, he did some weird shit with Booker and didn't like Markey do and maybe Sakaki where they went out and dressed up as Hajis for a little bit.
That was Sakaki. I don't think did Cohen do that? I guess I'll have to ask him.
I think Cohen did too.
Oh, maybe
because he spoke a little bit of Arabic and he looked like he could blend in a little bit.
Well, what I remember from Cohen was every time he spoke Arabic, they would say something like,
"Oh, they knew he was
Jewish." Yeah, because he had a Hebrew accent.
Yeah, they knew he was Jewish, and they called him on it every time. Like they didn't like Cohen at all.
No. So he stopped speaking Arabic. I mean, he stopped speaking at all in front of anybody because he was he was worried about being drug off. Yeah.
But
all right. Well, to give you some references of things that kind of happened kind of early, March 6th was our convoy from Kuwait. And then it was the 13th, just a week later, was when McPherson got wounded with his jaw gotten blown off. The 20th was the first big IED that I remember for weapons company. That was with Worth losing the eye over in 81s.
Okay.
And then the 22nd was our first casualty was Fox Company. Lance Corporal Dang got killed by an RPG.
Okay.
And then not long after that, Echo Company shot up some dudes with mortar gear. It was 4 insurgents in a truck. And then right after that was when the mosque started calling out every day to kill Americans, take up arms and kill Americans.
Yeah, checks out.
Yeah. And then March 31st was when the Blackwater contractors got killed on that bridge, the bridge to Fallujah.
Yeah. Well, then I think, your truck got hit on St. Patty's Day.
Yes, it was on that. So I didn't get hit on St. Patty's Day. I got hit on the 18th. It was 00.
Yeah.
It was 0030. Right. It was 30 minutes past.
Yeah. We went out on St. Patty's Day and got hit while we were out, I think, or something.
Yeah, man.
And I remember we had these fucking crazy looking back on it now, we did some wild cowboy shit. Like I remember, I think it was, they told us, I'm drawing a blank. What was the battalion commander's name? Paul
Kennedy.
What is it?
Colonel Kennedy.
Paul Kennedy. That's right. I remember his speech that he gave before we stepped off was hard. It was tough. That still gives me goosebumps when I hear that speech. But I remember thinking because he was telling us we had those half doors. They were 1/4-inch steel. Didn't cover any vital organs whatsoever when you were sitting in the Humvee. So, and he said, and I'm sure every battalion that came after us said the same shit about us, that, the last battalion doesn't know what they're doing. We're going to change it. They're buttoned up in their armored Humvees, but we're going to be fast and lethal. And I was like, hell yeah. And the first time I saw an IED go off, I was like, hell nah. But I remember cruising around with the half doors, and after your truck got hit on St. Patty's Day, seeing the shrapnel on the inside that was deflected by nothing. And you didn't have anybody in the back seat. You just had 3 at the time, I think.
I had four. It was all I had Radsky driving. I had McCabe in the back,
Hmm.
but I don't remember what McCabe was doing, but he had leaned forward. But if he had not leaned forward, I think he leaned forward to like fuck with me. And had he not leaned forward, it would have killed him.
Oh yeah, they'd have taken his head off.
Yeah, that big
That's-
chunk of shrapnel went right where his head would have been.
Yeah, because I remember it hit on the other side, like went right through.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, man, these half doors fucking suck. Like,
Yeah.
we're getting IED'd more than we're getting straight up just contact with small arms or anything. But
yeah,
at least at the time.
Yeah, and out of the four of us, three of us got hit. I mean, I was hit in the shoulder, and the face, and the neck, and McCabe took a huge piece in the thigh. Couldn't even. He thought he could stand up, and when he did, he fell over. He got up out of the Humvee and had a big hole in his thigh. And then Aldretti up in the gun got hit, and the gun was all messed up too because everything got hit with shrapnel and dirt and everything else.
And so I think our next big thing after that was April 1st.
Okay.
Was that the night that Jeffrey got hit, Morris?
Not quite. It was, so we went out.
April 4th.
Yeah, 4th.
Yeah.
4th was the day he got hit. He died on the morning of the 5th.
Yeah. So I remember being out and for some reason we split our sections. So your section was over like at a intersection, and then Swede's section was over. Or were you with? No, yeah.
I was with you. We went up. We went up.
LT section. We were up along the river.
Yep.
Along the canal or river, whatever the fuck that is, along Route. I want to say like Route Nova or something. And that was when we started taking contact from across the river from the Army because they saw us fucking digging in, and I don't know if they were shooting at us with Bradleys or whatever, but
it was strikers. Yeah.
Strikers. So they started shooting at us, and then Morris got hit, and that night was a clusterfuck, which really started like at least 10 days of just fuckery. But
yeah, tell whatever you can remember, man, if you can remember any details, because I'm interested in your perspective of it.
Well, obviously I wasn't there next to Morris when he got hit, but
no. But even the striker engagement, that didn't happen to everybody.
Yeah, we were. I remember it was like a LPOP or something. We were just kind of posted up and just monitoring the river and or the road in the river. Honestly, that's one thing, like looking back on it, like we had missions and you're like, what the fuck are we doing? And so listening to other guys, like guys that had more than 10 minutes in the Corps, tell their story. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this has been kind of cathartic a little bit. But yeah, we were watching the river and just kind of, it didn't quiet all night. We were just kind of screwing around. I think we had kind of dismounted and we're fucking around by the trucks. And
it might have been what you were doing. I can tell you what the mission actually was if you're curious.
Yeah, I'm curious.
So when counter battery was firing, they had gotten 3 positive IDs just north of the river. That's where the mortars were coming from, and we were watching across the river with the tow sights, trying to pick up those guys setting up mortars. We did not see them, but that's why we were there, because we could see for miles with the tow sight across the river, so we didn't have to actually go across the river.
Yeah, and apparently the Army was doing the same thing on the exact opposite side.
They were,
and they must have saw us before we saw them, because I don't know, a Toyota Hilux and a Humvee must be hard to distinguish with their optics they have. So, not that I'm talking shit about the Army, but here goes. No,
but it happened.
Yeah, and
it happened more than once.
Yeah, more than once.
Yeah,
more than once to our truck. But
yeah.
So they let us. I don't even remember if we knew it was the Army set up across the way. I don't remember if we tried. I know I didn't shoot back.
You didn't, but Richie did.
With the mark?
Yeah, Richie fired back the mark. That's what ended it.
Good for him. They heard the grenades go off and they realized that's not a service.
Yep, he landed Mark on one of the strikers and they popped red stars, and that's why we stopped firing.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think Monroe fired the 50. I know I didn't shoot across. I just remember going, who the fuck is shooting at us? Because there's no way that's an AK. That's not an RPK. Right. That's not nothing that they should have.
Right.
But, And then, of course, obviously, while we were there, that's when we heard that Morris got hit. They medevaced him over to combat outpost, and
Yep.
he flew out. And I remember like when Bundy and Navi came back, they said, "Yeah, he's stable. All we can do now is just kind of hope and pray." And obviously, the next morning we got the word. But was April 1st? Was that when? No, Connie got shot on the 6th, right?
Condi,
or the 1st?
No, Condi got shot through the shoulder on April 6th.
Okay. So yeah, so then the next big thing would have been the firefights on the 6th, 7th, and 10th of April. And I was thinking about it, like I don't know if I'm getting my dates mixed up, but like I remember the 7th vividly, at least for what I remember to be vivid. But I don't remember a lot about April 6th. I don't know where that, because April 7th was Route Apple, right? Apple to Nova.
So we did both of those days. We were damn near in the same area. We were just a little south. Like on the 6th, we were deeper into Sophia. And then on the 7th, we were just a little closer, like you said, to Route Apple.
Okay.
But when we were within a mile of the same exact area. So it can all blend together because it all looked exactly the same.
That's probably why. I mean, I remember the firefight that I remember like the most vividly. I think it was on the 7th. We were coming up and we had just made like a left turn, and I thought it was Route Apple, but the street names don't really matter that much. And I remember there was like two guys that popped up on a roof, and that was when Gunny shot him left-handed through the Humvee while we're still driving.
Yes.
And that basically kicked off the whole ambush down that road. And I remember like that initial adrenaline dump. Like there's nothing like that in the whole world. I've done all kinds of stuff, and there's nothing like a firefight. The adrenaline you get from that is out of this world. It's insane. But we were in it for so long, like the adrenaline dump wore off, and like guys, you could see guys were thinking critically. They weren't tunnel vision. They were focused. Like it was actually kind of impressive to see. But I remember in that fuckery, like I remember, I'm not sure how, but like we herringboned, and then like my car was the third truck, and we ended up pushing up to the front. I remember at one point, Randall came up with a 203 because that's all he ever shot.
Yes.
Okay, so Randall comes up with a 203, and while he's standing next to my truck, and we're just kind of slowly pushing down the street, and I remember like the housing, like the houses were nice.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one house that looked like it had like big pillars, like a White House. It was a 2-story house, and it had like these giant pillars that ran up, kind of like the front of the White House. And I remember I saw a guy run from behind one pillar to the second pillar, and I pointed out to Ron. I said, "Hey," because I couldn't get my gun up that way, and Monroe was pointing down long, and so I was telling Ron, I was like, "Hey, there's the guy on the balcony. There's a guy on the balcony." And Randall's like, "I got him." And so he loads his 203 and boom, fires that thing. And I watched that round fly 20 feet above the roof of the house. And I don't even know where that fucker went, but it launched somewhere. I'm sure everybody was okay. But, and then he fired the next round. And then obviously he hit right where he was aiming at, and never took contact from that spot again. So that was nice. I remember at one point there was like we first turned when Geezer first started lighting up the 50, there was, I don't know if you remember, but there was we came up and there was an RPK or a PKM or something. It was a machine gun, and it was as we're driving, it's on the right-hand side, and they had like a berm kind of built up.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first turned the corner, we were taking contact from there, and like everybody was spraying. Geezer was hosing shit down, that when anything ran out, he was shooting at that. And I remember as we drove by, there was a mandal, one of those man sandals, like those Jerusalem cruisers. Mm-hmm. And I think it still had like part of a foot in it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, homie just ran right out of his shoe and just left his foot with it. So, but what was weird is I remember, because it was an alleyway kind of right behind that I'm sure he got hit and drugged to the alley or something. Mm-hmm. But I remember there was like, I never saw that guy's body. And I remember thinking, God, where'd that fucking guy go? He's just missing his leg, missing his foot. And I don't know where he went. That bothered me for a little bit, but just because I want to know what happened to him.
Yeah.
And there was at one point there was a tanker on the right-hand side of the road that was stopped. and Monroe had hit it a couple times. I think everybody had kind of hit it a couple times with some bullets. It was leaking what we thought was gas. And I remember we were trying to skip tracers off of it like it was the movies, and we were trying to get it to light up, and we couldn't get that thing to fucking go for shit. But
it turned out to be water.
Oh, that's probably why it didn't fucking light up. But but it wasn't for lack of trying. I know that.
Yeah.
And I think that was when I pulled the 240 out of the back, because we, for some reason, we carried, which good reason, I guess, we carried the 240, an extra 240 in our truck with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I dismounted there and I pulled the 240 out and just kind of went prone and just shot anything that I could see underneath the truck, because I feel like we kept taking contact from behind the tanker.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'm misremembering, but it felt like fucking 5-6 hours that we were out there.
I mean, depending on which day. So on the 6th, we were out there 6-8 hours, whatever it was. On the 7th, it was all fucking day. It was 11 or 12 hours. Like, it was so goddamn long. Yeah.
I remember, because for some, and we were using the slap rounds, the saboted light armor penetrator rounds, and we had a whole truckload of slap rounds, which up until that point I'd never even seen in the Marine Corps. Like, I'd heard about them, I knew they were there, but for us to actually get the slap rounds, like, that was cool. At least I thought they were cool. But like, we burned through, I forget if we had 2,000 or 4,000 rounds in the truck, but we were about running out of ammo. I remember that's why we had to break it off and leave. Yep. Not that I think anybody else was wanting any more business, but I think that's when we went back and rearmed.
Yeah.
But that's the one that I think I remember the most vividly. All the other ones just kind of blend together. I remember getting into some shit with, I think we were supporting Fox Company on the 10th, I think. And we got into a firefight on the 10th as well, but it wasn't as long and it wasn't as bad. Like, to me, like, in my mind, the 7th was the one that was like that. They really, I don't know, solidified our platoon as combat tested right there.
Yeah. My memory of you, I'll tell a Grove story since you're here. And this is on the 6th. Oh, yeah, this is on the 6th. Now, you may not remember this, but Randall and Jordan and I think Matroka had the bright idea to start trying to do some of that satellite patrolling crap that we had learned. And they started pushing forward on jumping walls and all that shit on the side streets, and they were blocks ahead of us. And Monroe was firing right over the top of their heads because they were hiding behind a truck. And so I had come back to I was going back and forth between all the trucks trying to direct fire, more or less. That was what my job ended up being half the time. And I was like, all right, I need your truck. And you were like, all right. And I was like, Monroe, fire this way. Don't fire to the left. Only fire over here. Anywhere over here is fine. Don't fire to the left. You'll kill Randall. And I call over to Randall on the radio, and he's like, do you know where I am? And I was like, I have no fucking clue where you are. I just know you're way ahead of us. And he's like, all right, I'm going to throw something. And he throws
he threw a fucking mag, right?
He threw a mag. Yeah. He flips the mag out in the middle of the road, and they're way up there. And I looked at you, and it's still massive gunfight. I mean, just bullets literally everywhere, RPGs coming down the road. And I was like, okay, we're coming to provide support, because they were pinned down. They were just stuck there. And he's like, we're almost out of ammo. Okay, great. I looked at you and I was like, let's get it over with. And you just started laughing. You were laughing like the whole way. We were driving. We probably drove for 3 minutes or whatever, just right up the road while Geezer was firing. But you were just cackling, laughing, because you were like, we're gonna fucking die. And we didn't, because we're here to tell the story. But yeah. I distinctly remember you just laughing your ass off and getting out. We were both providing like a ridiculous amount of cover fire while they came over to the back of the truck and retooled because they were out of ammo.
Yeah, I do remember that. I mean, what else do you do?
Yeah.
And fucking laugh is all we could do.
Yeah.
We were having fun doing it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, speaking of that, so we did come back. We rearmed. I mean, the first night we went to Chow even and kind of hung out. You remember kind of what it felt like after your first big contact?
I think you almost felt relief. Like you got it out of the way. You made it out of the first one. But I think at the same time, like seeing what it's like, it's almost like you just kind of come to terms with, hey, it is what it is. I mean, if something happens here, we'll make the best of it while we're here for as long as we're here.
Yeah.
So I think after that, after April 6th, I mean, I think I smoked a little bit while I was there, but I think after April 6th, I smoked a lot of it. I think I started smoking heavy after that, because then it was just like, whatever, dude, I'm just out hanging. And it was more like the smoke pit time. It was just more like hanging with the boys. It wasn't like I needed a cigarette. It was just like, this is where we come and decompress. This was our therapy after some weird shit goes down. But, and then you're just grateful that everybody's still there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, the 6th was when we kind of pushed through. We pushed all the way up through the Sofia district, and we reinforced the Echo guys that were pinned down. And then we evac'd some of their casualties back, retooled, and then came back out. But when we came back out, there wasn't much contact. The 7th was our long engagement, which is probably why it sticks in your head.
Yeah.
The 8th wasn't much, although we did go out that day. It just may not stick in your mind too much. I think that was when we were supporting Fox Company, is what you remember. That was Operation County Fair. That was when we found a bunch of field hospital type things, just medical stuff and dead bodies. We found a bunch of dead bodies. We no insurgents, no weapons, just, medical stuff and dead people.
Yeah, it was like their casualty collection point, and they just had dropped everybody off.
Right. And then I don't remember what we did on the 9th. We were out every single day, but I truly don't remember what we did on the 9th. The 10th was the next one I remember, was the big bug hunt. And that's when everybody was out.
Yeah.
And we were part of the southern part of the cordon. I don't know if you remember that any specifically, but that was the one where they were out on the loudspeakers and yelling and calling everybody out to fight.
I remember being out that day. I don't remember exactly where we were. But I remember at one point, like, we did take contact that day, because I remember like seeing, I thought it was line company guys. It could have just been dismounts, but they were kind of tucked in behind a median. And I remember seeing them there. But yeah, April 6th and 7th were definitely the bigger ones in that time period.
Right.
Then it kind of slowed down for a little bit, I think. I think they realized that our tactics weren't the same as the Army tactics, and I think they realized they couldn't just sit there and hang and bang, because we would stop and hang and bang with them. So I think they kind of switched up tactics a little bit.
We also killed a lot of them. Like that was, we killed a lot of them, and so they weren't able to retool themselves very well, because we had decimated them.
Yeah. Is it true that we and I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but we killed the guy that cleans the porta shitters for us?
Yeah.
That was true. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we killed the DVD guy and we killed the porta shitter guy both. Yeah.
All right. They probably deserved it. I'm assuming if they were there, they knew what was going on, but
yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I know the DVD guy deserved it. I don't know what happened to the porta shitter guy.
I don't know who shot him. I just remember when they found him dead, and they told us they weren't going to be able to clean anything.
Well, I remember whenever before the DVD guy got killed, whenever he was on the Hurricane Point, the rocket fire was way more fucking accurate while he was there. So I'm not sad about that one.
Yeah.
But for about a week there, those porta shitters were getting, like, dudes were straight hovering. There was shit coming out of the porta shitter trying to come back out. So
that's correct.
we definitely needed to get a new porta shitter guy.
We also ended up killing at least one, if not two, of the early interpreters that we had too. They were playing both sides, and the one was a part of directing the ambush, actually.
Well, good. Glad we got him then.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Rocco? That was his name, right?
Yeah,
it's correct. There's stories. Some people think that he got killed later on because he tried to cross over and then told that he was no longer needed, and then was out in town and got killed, I guess. Is that what you're remembering, Nyland?
So the most recent story I heard is somebody came across him 3-4 years later at a different camp, at a different deployment. and he was one of the guys selling DVDs. And the deal that for him to come to the United States had fallen through. And so if he got killed after that, I don't know. But that's all the stories I've heard.
Okay. I guess for those that are just listening, Rocco was like at least from my perspective, he was like the head interpreter for Weapons Company.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think he had like a specific platoon. He might have favored one over the other, but he just seemed like he was always around. Like I thought we brought him back with us, or I thought he was at least scheduled to come back with us.
That was the rumor. That was the goal, is that they were working on getting him to come back. Him and his brother. His brother supposedly also worked for the military as an interpreter in Baghdad.
Okay.
Yeah. The same way with there's another guy, we called him Wilbur. I was in contact with him up until 2008 or something like that. But I think he ended up getting killed during the Syrian Revolution.
Okay. I just remember seeing Rocco in a firefight, and he was up there with his AK-47 just hosing it down. He wasn't even aiming. I don't know how good of a shot he was, but he was putting in work, and I was like, hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that was he let me shoot his AK when we were over by was it Lake Habanir or something?
Yeah.
We were like just shooting into the river or into the lake. And that was the first time I shot an AK, and I was like, all right, I can get one of these. These are all right.
Nice.
No, he was a cool dude.
Yeah, it was interesting. Seeing a lot of this stuff in the news and stuff like that, where people are trying to get interpreters out and things like that, I can see why. And Rocco is one of those people that I would agree. He definitely deserved a shot at least. I don't know why we don't have a better program for figuring that out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was 2004. We didn't have a good program for anything. So,
because every other interpreter was directing ambushes, so they're probably hesitant to bring Rocco back.
Right.
This is also fair.
It didn't matter how much we vouched for him if everybody else is directing ambushes.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so moving forward, you're right. Into May, it kind of slowed down as far as like gunfights, but there were still like IEDs and other things that happened. Next big one, as far as like in my mind, you had kind of mentioned Booker's bearded guys, where he did the drive around low pro team. That was the last part of April, like the last week of April.
Okay.
And then May 1st was when they had Operation Treasure Island. That was when
Is that when we sent the scout swimmers over?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can tell the story how I remember it, but hopefully you can give me some clarification because I never asked about it. From what I remember is they suspected there was like a big weapons cache or IED cache or something on that little island out in the middle of the river, and so instead of just getting a rubber fucking dinghy and driving across, because they didn't want the enemy to know that we had rubber dinghy capabilities, I guess they had two scout swimmers swim across, and they grossly underestimated the undertow or the current or something. They got swept, and then I think they got swept back upstream somehow, like a weird current. They got tangled up in debris at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't know why they didn't just use the boat, but
yeah, I definitely couldn't speak to why they decided to swim. But it was 4 or 5 guys. There was a couple that made it, and the one you're talking about, he didn't actually go upstream, but he went basically straight down, like from where he disappeared under the water. They found him just a few yards away, and then the other guy went actually downstream.
Okay.
You remember the days after that?
I remember all of a sudden there was a bunch of fucking boats in the water, and then they knew that we had rubber dinghies.
Yes. Yeah.
But
yeah. And us searching the banks for a couple of days straight, basically.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Yeah, that was one of those that, like, looking back on it, you're like, why the fuck did we try to swim that? I mean,
yeah, they drowned on the 1st. They found the second guy's body on the 5th. So it took a while to find him. And then I guess the next big one would be Savage got popped on May 12th.
Okay.
And that was a pretty good size IED. And then the next one that might ring some bells for you is May 29th. We had a couple of firefights there between when Savage got hit and the 29th. but nothing that was like standing, right? It was all just like they'd shoot at us, we'd shoot at them. There's a little something, and they'd run off.
Yeah, like just little skirmishes more than full firefights.
Yep, onesies, twosies.
Yeah, they'd pop an IED and tee some rounds off, and we'd clear the kill zone and return fire, and then everybody was gone.
Yep.
But usually you knew when that was going to happen because the normally busy market was empty, and you're like, ah, shit. Anytime you rolled through the downtown market and there was nobody there, or there was very few people there, you already knew what time it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that was different, actually. You're right. That kind of started in May. Before that, when we were getting pop shots and stuff, there would still be people around. Or when an IED would go off, there'd be people in the streets, and then an IED would go off and civilians would get hit and everything else. Which that did change. May 29th was when we went and cleared the dam, the Habaniya Dam with the engineers.
That's with the yeah. Fuck, that was brutal. They thought there was IEDs on the dam, which turns out there was, or on at least the road that runs it. And I remember we were providing security for them, and I don't think my truck was up on the dam. We were, because it was. I remember like looking over, and there was like that raise, like the dam, and they were going across it.
Yeah,
because we were down, I think, across Route Michigan or something.
Yeah, so you were part of my section. Our section was on Michigan, and it was Randall's section that was up on the dam. But
I remember like we were sitting in our truck and we're like, oh, they're definitely going to hit an IED. If it's up there, they're definitely going to hit it. And almost like right on cue, like the earth erupts and it's just giant dust cloud. And I remember seeing one of the dudes like in the air, and I was like, oh fuck. And it was again, it was one of those ones like, really, we don't want to let them know we got metal detectors. Like we're out here on foot doing IED sweeps. But again, I don't know the whole details behind it.
From the way it was told to us by the XO who confirmed it, is that it was pushed from higher headquarters that dam had to be swept and that it had to be protected. That it was basically like, it was one of those things like we were still doing security and stability operations. So the hospital shouldn't get hit. The cops shouldn't get hit. The dam needs to stay open. The bridges need to stay open. And so anytime there's a threat to those key infrastructure pieces, it was us who had to go out there and do it. And this was the way they elected to do it was handheld with handheld metal detectors.
Yeah, I'm sure in hindsight there probably would have been a better way, but I can
think of a million. Yeah.
Yeah, that was rough to watch because I mean it felt bad because when you're sitting in the truck and you're watching them clear it, like there's nothing you can do. I mean,
Nope.
So, and I think like one dude, you could tell he was wearing I remember he was wearing Wiley X, the Wiley X glasses they gave us, or Wiley X goggles.
Yeah.
Because like one guy wasn't, one guy was. Like one guy lost his eyes, one guy's blind.
Yeah.
And I think, but it basically like peeled the skin right off. Like they must have been buried in, and they like basically came right up on it, and the blast went straight up.
Yeah.
At least that's how I imagined it. But yeah, I felt bad for those guys.
And so one casualty got thrown into my truck, one went into yours, and we drove them to combat outpost. You remember anything after that?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember what we did after that one.
Okay. Well, I'll remind you some pieces and see what you remember. So
fill me in.
I don't remember why the XO was out, but he was not with us specifically. I think he was with Sledgehammer, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, he came and met us at combat outpost. And as we were driving, there was two guys next to a station wagon. And I remember us calling in the station wagon, like, I don't know what those guys are doing, but whatever they're doing, they're up to no good. We get to combat outpost. We drop those guys off to the battalion surgeon. They're calling in a bird for evac for those engineers. We pick up the XO and we're sitting there, and there's a little bit of chaos as to what's going to happen next. And they're like, well, you got to watch the road. If you don't watch the road, then we have to redo, I don't know, something. I don't know what the whole idea was. We had to go watch the road. So our choice position was to go back up on that cemetery hill. So my truck.
Is this when we or when we hit the landmine?
No,
okay.
that was different.
Okay. All right.
But that's a good story too.
Yeah, it was a great story.
No, and then we drove up to the Cemetery Hill and took that same position Overwatch with the XO, and that's when the Echo Company highback drove past that car that we had called in, and they drove past super slow, and it would detonate as a VBID.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so we were sitting up at the Cemetery Hill, and it wasn't a regular IED. I mean, this thing was fucking huge. Like, it mushroom cloud IED'd. I
Yeah.
remember it being big. Like, I remember when we got there, there was people everywhere, just hurt. Some dead, mostly dead. A couple hurt guys, but like just there was just Marine bodies everywhere. I remember seeing the engine or the engine or something was so far away from it, like 100 yards or some shit. Like
Yeah.
it was, I was like, holy shit, this was big. And I remember we just started loading guys up in the back. We had a high back then. We just started throwing guys in the back of the high back and trying to get them to combat outposts. But that one was rough. There was like, because I think, what, they have 10 or 11 guys in there?
I don't know. I know there were 4 dead right there. I think we backed 3, and there was a couple that were like semi-walking wounded, like good enough to be treated by the other corpsmen that were there. But yeah, that was rough. It was a loaded high back. I don't know how many were in the back at the time, 8 or 9 probably, but it sucked.
I thought it was, that was 10 or 11. So that makes 9 in the back and then the 2 in the front.
Yeah.
Because I remember thinking, man, why'd they have that many people in the fucking high back? But yeah, that was brutal. That was a big one. What you got?
Well, you started to talk about the landmine story. I believe the date was it was in the beginning of June, but so that's coming up. That was coming up next anyway. What do you remember from that?
Well, I remember being back on the hill on the cemetery and just kind of overlooking Michigan or Mobile or whatever route that we were kind of watching. And we'd been there for a while. It seemed like guys had gotten out of the truck. They stopped to piss. We'd been there for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we decided, like, hey, we're heading back, we're leaving this position. I think it was like your truck backed up like 10 feet maybe and hit it.
Yeah.
And I remember, I still have a picture of it, but the whole rim was like tacoed. The tire came off. The rotor was tacoed. And luckily nobody was in the back seat on that side because like it threw the seat out. The mirror the driver's side mirror was gone. Like, to this day, like we had been out and walking around the trucks, like talking to each other. I don't know how nobody stepped on it. I assume it must have been like, it obviously wasn't an anti-tank mine because then the whole truck would have been fucking gone. But
right,
I assume it was an anti-personnel mine that they buried too deep and we just couldn't set it off, or we just got really lucky and just didn't step on it. But yeah, I remember that it seemed like we were up there for a couple hours in the OP before we had left and hit that landmine.
Yep. Yeah, and then we were out there for a while and left. We downloaded the truck, left the truck unloaded, but we waited just around it until the engineers got there, and they cleared it like old school World War II style, like with bayonets. And like stabbing into the ground. And I was like, really? There's no other way. There's no other way to clear this.
Well, they're like, do you see what we did with the metal detectors? Let's use the bayonets.
Yeah. Yeah. It was so crazy that they're out there just digging around and like literally stabbing knives into the ground. Like that's the best way to detect another mine. Yeah. The next big couple of things that I can remember are from June. And one of them was the LAV attack that happened on Racetrack Road. We got called out as QRF in the middle of the night.
Yeah. That was interesting. That one had blowback years later too.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's weird. My recruiter, I guess not my recruiter was his name was Staff Sergeant Elias, but his counterpart in the Lancaster Palmdale office was in that LA. He was killed in that LAV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Weird small Marine Corps.
I know. So I knew the guy. I knew one of the guys that got killed in that one. But yeah, we were night QRF, and it was like were they like with regiment, or they weren't too far, obviously. They were just cruising through our AO for something. At least that's how I remember it. And they got hit, and it was like I don't know if it was like a 155 with a bunch of ball bearings, but it Swiss cheesed that LAV.
Yeah.
And then we roll out there, and I think all the shooting was done by that point. But I don't remember getting into a firefight that night, but I remember getting pictures of that LAV, and that thing was just decimated. And I think that was like, by that point in the deployment, everybody was just kind of, if it's your time, it's your time. Because if the LAVs are getting Swiss cheese, then I don't even know if we had full armor by then. Like the whole, like the Frankenstein turrets and all that, like the God turrets that we had. I don't even know if we had all that yet.
We didn't have I mean, I don't remember specifically. I'd probably have to look back through some pictures, but I don't think so. I don't think we had any turret armor. I think we just had all the shit we welded on ourselves.
Yeah.
If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.